Breaking news as GDP comes out somehow under Wall Street's expectation of 3.1%, coming in at 2.8%. And that's not the only exciting news for today. Super micro shares plunge 35%. And I'm going to read this part slowly. As the auditor resigns after raising concerns of fraud. I'm sorry, it says concerns months earlier. Now, the market doesn't seem to care too much as the VIX is barely up, Mitch, only up 2.5% on all this wild news. We'll go into a little bit of that today, but we're also going to go into the number one and number two biggest home builder in America issuing a dire warning to the entire economy stating the consumer is broke. And we got nowhere to go but down. But before we dig in, Mitch, sir, happy Wednesday. How are you?
Good morning. Well, it's an interesting morning. So gold is at 2799.30. It's pennies away from 2,800 an ounce. Oil is up 2.3%. So there's a whole bunch of things that are happening. It's an interesting market. I mean, you have the market's going to do what it's going to do, and the rest of the world is beginning to wake up and smell the coffee.
Yeah, and that coffee is not smelling too good. It's that burnt coffee that you get at Denny's that just closed down because of quantitative tightening and overspending from the federal government. But here's the thing, you guys. We're going to end as well today's video by giving you guys another quick update on what's going on around the nation with property tax fraud, because I got some breaking news last night that about 400 to 800 teachers were arrested in my own ISD here in Harris County. But either way, let's start here. Actions speak louder than words. And so what I want to show you guys is above our heads, look at the price cuts from Lennar. Now, this is in Houston, Texas. I recommend you guys go to your own housing market to see what's going on there, because not all housing markets are the same. But in my housing market, Lennar, I mean, look at some of these price cuts, $74,000 price cut right here. I mean, these price cuts right now, here's another one right here. This is what, $85,000 price cut. The price cuts are everywhere in my market, and they are hefty price cuts. In addition to that, Lennar, and we're talking about Lennar, is also offering a fixed FHA rate of 3.75%, which is over 2% lower than the market. And then the way that the law reads is they're supposed to take that cost of that rate off of the purchase price when it comes to appraisal value, which they're not doing. Which brings us to this first article that was updated yesterday, October 29th. U.S. housing market is on the verge of a vicious cycle, which is not good for America, Lennar mortgage head warns. We're on the verge of a vicious cycle in which fewer and fewer people can afford the American dream of home ownership. That's not good for America, and it's been that way for a minute, but it's good that they're finally saying that. And that was a comment from the president of Lennar Mortgage, Escobar, who was recently named the chair of MBA. Think about that for a second. So the head of Lennar Mortgage's department is the chair of the MBA? No conflict of interest there, I'm sure. She told the trade
that's the Mortgage Bankers Association.
Yeah. I'm sure they're not pushing any biasness or any type of financial narrative, Mitch. I'm sure that's not happening. But regardless, they told the group of 275,000 members that she would work to bring the issue of housing affordability to the forefront for policymakers and government officials, and would campaign to loosen regulations in mortgage lending and home building. And I could tell you what she could do right now that would fix a lot of this in about 10 seconds. Just drop the prices of houses 30%. Just drop them 30% and you just helped America. It's so funny listening to these CEOs say this and these presidents. Enough is enough. Housing costs have surged with prices, thank God she's talking prices, hitting new highs, and the rate of a 30-year mortgage averaging now close to 7%. Isn't that funny that it went from 6.1 to over 7% after the Fed rate cut? So it was 6.1, the average conventional, and then the Fed started the rate cut campaign, and then it went up to over 7%. And if you've been watching me, you should know exactly why. Escobar said that the U.S. is short 1.5 million homes and that the country's housing stock isn't keeping pace with the number of households, but that's not true. What she should say is affordable houses, because when we go here and we look at the housing supply for new houses, it's actually, and this is a 10-year outlook. By the way, before lockdowns, it was sitting at months of supply of about 5, sometimes 6 months. Right now, you guys, we've been to 8 and 9 months of supply. So they have all of this supply. The supply is growing. There's not enough demand, which means supply is not the issue. The affordability is the issue. And the price specifically is the issue. She goes on to say, decades of overregulation have made it increasingly difficult to build new homes and rehabilitate old ones. She said, for many small builders, it's now close to impossible. And you've been saying that, Mitch, as fewer new homes come to the market, the cost of other homes rises even faster. And that's what I've been trying to tell you guys. They're propping up the house prices. These guys are. So they need to start reducing the appraisals appropriately, because to me, I look at that as fraud. And if I purchased a home, a new home, and I had any issues, I'd probably sue them. She also pointing out to zoning rules. So not a quality construction, right? It's just zoning rules that make it difficult to build more housing in many parts of the country. About 75% of residential land in the US is zoned for single family homes, she said. I don't think that's bad. Government regulations add nearly $94,000 on average to the price of a new home, according to a 2021 survey. She would be bringing the matter to lawmakers and regulators in an effort to lower the cost of housing. So essentially, it sounds like, Mitch, I mean, they're getting worried that they can't sell the houses that they already have, which is why it was so surprising to me that she said they're short about 1.5 million houses. You can't even sell the houses that you do have. It doesn't stop with Lennar. The number one biggest home builder in America, which is D.R. Horton, is also issuing a warning. The biggest U.S. home builder misses on earnings, as it says buyers are staying on the sidelines. And again, this came out yesterday. D.R. Horton, the largest U.S. home builder by market cap, on Tuesday reporting earnings well below estimates. As it said, interest rates were keeping buyers on the sidelines and forcing the company to provide more incentives. But I just showed you guys right here that they're offering 3.75%. So if that 3.75% isn't working, then what do they need interest rates to be, Mitch? Zero? We believe that rate volatility and uncertainty are causing some buyers to stay on the sidelines. So nothing about prices here. Again, they just go right off the deep end immediately. To help spur demand and address affordability, we are continuing to use incentives such as mortgage rate buy downs, and we have continued to start and sell more of our homes with smaller floor plans. Make them smaller, not more affordable. Great job so far. We expect both the volume and gross margin miss to weigh on DHI and see results as a broad negative road for builder stocks, which could dent investor sentiment. Mitch, on one hand, they're saying that they understand affordability is the problem, but on the other hand, they're not saying that they want to lower prices, which I would argue is definitely needed from any mathematical standpoint, and bank accounts for that matter, for Americans. That's what we really need, is that price decline. And in fact, them not doing that and instead buying down interest rates, that's not really helping America, in my opinion. But Mitch, can you explain how bad a shape are these guys really in?
Well, Lennar's been through storms before. They'll weather this one, although probably a different version of what we see as a company. So right now, today, it's not so bad. But the problem is, and one of the things we have to talk about, so Lennar owns the mortgage company. Lennar owns the title company. Lennar owns the development company that develops the lots. And what happens with these builders, they become fat and happy. And I know this from personal experience. And then they start saying, well, we're going to get into the lot development business. And they don't put proper markups on those lots. So if you generate a lot, you've got to get a rate of return on that lot. And then you sell it to the home builder company. So they eliminate a step under the theory, well, we're going to get a 12% gross markup on our home, on our final product, but they now include the value of the lot. So that's two different methods of balance sheet accounting that more than likely is being ignored. And the reason they switch is because the cost of the land, again, from personal experience, I know of a site that Lennar bought for $20,000 an acre here in Texas. Right now, today, you couldn't touch that land for 180. And therein lies the problem. So Lennar has to make a rate of return on their money. They look for pockets where to generate that money in addition to the home builder side of it, i.e. the mortgages and the title company. Then they get into, well, we've got good cash standing and we've got a $2.2 billion line of credit. Well, there's a problem there too. So let's say, for the sake of conversation, we're close to the 2007 mark where there's going to be a credit lockup. Well, that $2.2 billion line of credit more than likely is going to have serious problems that they won't have. So what you end up with here is a series of elements that equate to kabuki theater. Because if you can't see what the values are of what people are buying, my house is worth X, my mortgage is worth Y, never mind the monkeying around with the mortgage and the title company values, it becomes kabuki theater. Then, now on her behalf, did say the right thing, which is that the regulations and the taxes on the regulations are driving these values up, but so are the real estate taxes. You want to fix it, you can't ignore the real estate taxes. That is ground zero for everything we're talking about here. All this other stuff is just whitewashing what reality is. Kabuki theater.
Mitch, do you think as a result of the challenges that both DR is facing, Lennar is facing, and the fact that they actually do have inventory just sitting there collecting dust? I mean, I traveled around the nation for the last 2 years to show people this, to show people the damage of these new home building communities. Do you think all of that will lead to lower home prices?
If they end up being forced in a position due to lack of credit to jettison the assets because they've got too much inventory, potentially, yes. Can they weather the current storm for another 12 months or so? Nobody knows, because nobody knows what the status of the banks are going to be. But you've got banks that are in trouble. And again, we're right back to the word third-party credit risk. The reason why I'm not building is third-party credit risk. I'm not going to take that risk. If we build, it's all cash. Lennar's got a good line of credit. They can probably weather it, assuming that line of credit is stable. And that's one big assumption. I would not be making that assumption.
Okay. So in other words, the more, this is interesting in a roundabout way, I think what you're saying is the more credit tightening that there is and the less available liquidity for Lennar and DR to access, the more likely it is for those prices to go down, because they will need that money quickly. If they don't have easy access to cheap money, and if people aren't buying their overpriced houses at 3.75, then they will have to lower those prices to get that liquidity. Is that fair to say?
Yes. So they claim exactly. And they claim on their balance sheet or their current financial statement that they've got roughly $5 billion worth of houses on pending orders. Well, pending orders doesn't mean anything, right? Yeah. So again, kabuki.
Show me the money. Yeah. Show me the money, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
In this case, show me the credit line. But
yes, that too.
Mitch, can you talk about what signals this could be giving to the market? Obviously, home values, very important for Wall Street, probably more important than the GFC. I mean, literally it seems like there's just so many things that are dependent on home values maintaining. The consumer is not purchasing. To me, it shows consumer may be broke and in distress. But what other warnings can these statements from DR and Lennar give to the markets and us if we're an investor?
Well, if you're watching these programs with you, then you understand that we're different than the market, right? The market's going to do what the market's going to do. The market doesn't particularly care at this precise second as to the items of the banks not coming forth with their lines of credit or running into problems. So at the moment, they choose to ignore it. However, those who are watching these programs probably know more as to what's going on because you're living it. You see it. When you drive by people, you see how they act. You go to the grocery store, you see what they're purchasing, if they're purchasing less. So it's the tale of two different worlds. And those who want to watch the market want to click their heels and believe that everything is okay, and that's their business. It's just not reality, right? A picture is being painted, and part of that picture is kabuki theater.
Mitch, I just want a pretty happy life, right? I mean, it doesn't always have to be happy. There's challenges, but I want a happy life. I want to know that my family is safe, that my household is secure. And honestly, I don't even want to invest, man. I want to work, I want to come home, and I want to love people. And the more and more that I've been working with you and really just investigating all this stuff that's happening, the more and more it makes me not to want to participate in any capacity, because to invest right now, this is just my personal opinion, but to invest right now, because the premise is the markets reward investors, but to invest right now, you have to kick people in the teeth. And I'm not willing to be a part of that. The only way I'm going to make money is to be a part of this. What I look at is, I'll just say fraud, corruption, and greed, because I don't want to knock necessarily people, because I know there's good people that are investing, but I don't want to be a part of it. Do you blame me?
No. People who are investing in today's world, if you're going to invest $1 million, you're a big boy. If you don't have the knowledge to be doing it, whatever happens, happens. Obviously, we're capable of doing large scale investment. And we're not, for the exact same reason, because if it's got a taint of fraud to it, i.e., the school districts and what's happening at the central appraisal districts. If I build, I'm just holding myself out to be extorted. So I think living a healthy life as close to free of fraud as humanly possible is everybody's goal. The problem is that right now, the system is full of fraud. That Kabuki theater is being painted. It's clear. There's so much money that's owed in so many different buckets. It's an impossible task. Your school districts can't even give you what their bond schedules are. They can't give it to you by intent.
How long have you been a builder?
Over 35 years.
So 35 years you've been doing building. You're great in math, obviously. Probably the thing I respect most about you. So how much of the market is really just emotional? Like ungrounded from math? Like seriously, I mean, you're an expert in math. You see all this nonsense still happening. How much of the market is really emotional and not math, Mitch?
Well, in reality, in terms of the houses, 22.5 trillion.
Okay. Speaking of houses, so speaking of houses, I want to give the viewers, so speaking of houses, what Mitch and I are going to try to do is on the videos that Mitch and I are co-hosting together, we're going to try to end with a quick update on property tax fraud. You guys, our body of work is already out there, obviously links in the description, but I want to show you guys what's happening in my own district. Okay, so we don't just have to look at Denton County. I want you guys to know that these issues are happening everywhere. Look at what article that I read in Houston regarding Houston ISD. I read this last night. This came out again yesterday, October 29th. More than 800 uncertified teachers started the school year in Houston ISD. This is one of the most shocking. You know what? It's so crazy to me, Mitch, because this is just, we're telling people, hey, the ISD is like ground zero for fraud because it's the biggest municipality. It's so polarizing because they use our kids to push their narrative. But again, they hit the brick wall. I mean, we are seeing this unravel across the nation. Here's another one in Austin. Austin ISD chief financial officer arrested on insurance fraud charges. Former Valentine ISD employee arrested for fraud. So I go back to the fact that we don't want to put you guys in a situation to have to trust us to know what's going on. Don't trust us. Just put the effort in to confirm what we're saying or verify what we're saying. That's really what we're asking you to do, and use the math. The math helps guide us through the turmoil. But Mitch, based on what I just showed you, can you give the viewers, and we'll end here, can you give the viewers just a quick update on what's going on around the country? Any recent articles as far as property tax fraud or, any updates there?
Well, with regard to the DA in Houston, I was notified about that yesterday morning. Around 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, I had an email drafted that I sent to the DA in Houston, A, with a congratulations for making the move, because it is a big deal, and B, saying, okay, you've got the tip of the iceberg. We have the iceberg. We have it all enumerated. It's all quantifiable. We know exactly what these school districts are doing. And then yesterday, probably around 3 o'clock, for whatever reason, something popped in my head. I have a question. Do you believe that a child who's 1 year old should be bankrupt? Now, obviously, your answer, if you're a human being, would be no. Well, when you get in these central appraisal districts, what you will see is that they have a per capita bond liability. Well, per capita means per person. Well, I'm sorry, but 1 year old persons don't pay real estate tax. So when you see what they're saying, well, it's just a per capita cost, a per person cost. No, it's not. 30%. In other words, it's going to go up. Whatever they're claiming on a per capita, add easy 66% to that, because there's only roughly a third of the people are paying real estate tax. So again, Kabuki theater, it's intent to defraud. And that is one of the elements that I said to that DA in that letter. So we'll see what she does. She's got a whole team, but we will give her every stitch of documentation that we have, and we have the iceberg. They've got the tip.
To the viewers, I mean, how do you top that? the power in what Mitch is saying and what he's doing. I mean, where else are you guys going to get that? I mean, seriously, sign the petition, take 10 seconds, see what we're talking about, hit the description in the video. Step 1, read, sign the petition. And step 2, I challenge you guys to learn. I mean, a whole class, there's like 40 videos. It's like, took me 2 months. I almost had a nervous breakdown because it's so valuable, but take the course, become a teacher, help some people out, and help us get back our country. Mitch Vexler, always a pleasure, sir. Happy Wednesday. Any parting words you would like to give to the viewers?
I think across the United States, we're getting information literally by the hour. And one of the things that's constant, we see a lot of lawsuits. Another one came through early this morning. And the problem is people pick on laws. So some of these cases are pro se, which is a problem in and of itself. But if you look at the law and say, I'm going to fight on this law, and you're not backed up by the math, you're literally going to war with 2 hands tied behind your back. You need the math in order to be able to explain to a judge, Your Honor, not only is this the law, which is clear if you're using current laws, over here is the math that backs up why the laws are what they are. So can you imagine going into a deposition and against one of the criminals, say it's at a central appraisal district, the chief appraiser, or against the board of directors at a school district, and you start arguing the law. So what have you done? Well, you've got an attorney talking to opposing counsel, talking to a judge. 3 attorneys, neither one of which can add 1 and 1.
Yeah.
They've gone to war with hands tied behind their back. When you add the math as to why things are what they are and what that fraud is, now when you take a deposition of a criminal, you can literally say, please explain how the per capita value means absolutely anything, member of the board of the school district. Well, the answer is they can't. And therefore, you have them on one question, fraud committed. We believe we can take down any of these people in 3 questions. Never mind all the other questions that we've got available to us.
I love it, man. I love your energy. But I love that you're the opposite of apathy. You know, you're the opposite of that guy that just wants to take from everyone, that just wants to sell overbuilt houses that are built like crap. You know, they're overvalued. You know, you've taken a step out of the market to help us. So again, man, always appreciate you. You guys do me a favor, comment below. Let us know if this video helped. And other than that, happy Wednesday. If you guys are out there investing in real estate or you're just living your life, you guys already know we wish you luck and we hope you win.